places where the moon hands call. The sunlight dances over dewdrop heavy grass. Watch the water boatmen skitter by. They'll tell you secrets if you only stop and ask. Let me take you where the dragonflies paint the air with streaks of pink and gold. And I'll promise you a sunlit sky reflected back in the pools below. Beneath the rushing water, come closer now. And my heart beats a little faster. Have you heard the tales that catfish tell? This is the only home they know. Will you catch me alongside a sea? Make a wish as the wind begins to blow. When it's fortress roots, I feel so small. I'm out of feathers. You reach to grab my hand. Tap or force like my world shines bright. I see butterflies float along the paths we ride. Beneath the rushing water, come closer now. And my world spins a little faster. Come closer now, come closer now. Come to the waterfall. Take my hand now beneath the calms. The forest birds watch the sun begin to set. Let the focus on us now, like a warm embrace. This is the only life we get. I can see my future rushing by. I'm going on, the sun kicks by my feet. Let the moss grow on my aching bones as I give the earth my tired soul to keep.
Good morning, everyone. We'll be starting very shortly, so please make your way to your seats. Please scan the QR code on screen for access to the program booklet. We'll be starting very soon. If you have any questions, please feel free to approach any of our facilitators in the black World Wide Day shirts. Thank you.
And I know places where the moon hands call. The sunlight dances over dewdrop heavy grass. Watch the water boatmen skitter by. They'll tell you secrets if you only stop and ask. Let me take you where the dragonflies paint the air with streaks of pink and gold. And I'll promise you a sunlit sky reflected back in the pools below. Beneath the rushing water, come closer now. And my heart beats a little faster. Have you heard the tales that catfish tell? This is the only home they know. Will you catch me alongside to the water. Take my hand now beneath the calls of forest birds. Watch the sun begin to ascend. With the forest song of us now, like a warm embrace. This is the only life we get. I can see my future rushing by. I'm growing old among the saplings by my foot. Let the moss grow on my aching bones as I give the earth my tired soul to keep. Beneath the rushing water, come closer now. The moon spins a little faster. Places where the moon's call, the sunlight dances over dewdrop heavy grass. Watch the water boatmen skitter by. They'll tell you secrets if you only stop and ask. Let me take you where the dragonflies paint the air with streaks of pink and gold. And I'll promise you a sunlit sky reflected back in the pools below. Beneath the rushing water, come closer now. And my heart beats a little faster. Have you heard the tales that catfish tell? Katie is trapped, this is the only home they know. Will you catch me an ounce on a sea? Make a wish as the wind begins to blow. In this mattress roots I feel so small. I'm out of feathers, you reach to grab my hand. Tap will first like into the world. Take my hand now beneath the clouds. A forest birds watch the sun begin to set. Let the forest summer birds now, like a warm embrace. This is the only life we get. I can see my future rushing by. I'm growing old.
Yes. Very good morning to everyone here and a warm welcome to this year's Regional Youth Symposium. To all our international friends, thank you for making the long journey over to join us here in Singapore. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our host for today's event, Singapore's Minister for National Development and Minister in charge for Social Services Integration, Desmond Lee. He is joined by his special guest, His Royal Highness Tengku Hassanal, the region of Pahang. With that, welcome to the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium 2023, Partnerships of Wildlife Conservation in Southeast Asia. My name is Nazri and I will be your host for today's event. 50 years ago, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species in Wild Fauna and Flora was signed. This weekend, we commemorate that 50th anniversary with the 10th celebration of World Wildlife Day. For this year's celebrations, our team of youths have put together a symposium centered around the three themes of living with nature, learning for nature, and saving nature, with an exciting weekend of activities ahead to celebrate conservation in ASEAN. In keeping with this year's global theme of partnerships for wildlife conservation, we hope that these activities strengthen regional alliances between our youth stewards gathered here today to safeguard the amazing biodiversity we share as one ASEAN. Before we move forward with the event, some admin matters. So I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the site map. Restrooms are located on the outside, so just head out, make a left, and you should see the sign for the restroom. For our Muslim friends, we've also set up a prayer room. Similar directions, just head out, turn left, and you should see the sign. If you guys need directions, please feel free to approach any of our facilitators in the black World Wildlife Day t-shirt. Lastly, before I hand off, I would like to show our appreciation to our many partners who have supported this symposium, which we would not be able to without those gathered here today. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite the co-leads of the organizing team on stage to officially mark the start of the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium 2023. Gerald and Regina, please.
Thank you, Nasri, for that wonderful opening. And a very good morning to everyone joining us here today. My name is Regina,
And I'm Gerald.
and together we are the co-leads for this year's World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium.
The Regional Youth Symposium had its inaugural run in 2022. It was met with resounding success, with close to 250 participants joining us virtually across the region. Heartened by its reception, this year we were determined to create an even larger event platform to commemorate the partnerships that are integral to saving and protecting Southeast Asia's biodiversity.
As being a Regional Youth Symposium, we would like to thank all those who have travelled across borders to join us here today. So let's give a warm welcome to our regional speakers and guests, our regional facilitators, and our regional participants. On behalf of the World Wildlife Day Committee, local representatives, we hope that you enjoy your time here in Singapore, and we would also like to extend our gratitude to our guests, volunteers, participants who have graciously made the time to host our regional friends here over the weekend.
The organizing committee has worked tirelessly to bring this event to fruition, and we hope that with the knowledge, experience, and connections forged through this event will be as meaningful to you as it was for us planning this event. We hope the message of partnerships for wildlife conservation rings as we glean, share and collaborate over this event this weekend.
As such, we hope that you enjoy the amazing lineup that we have prepared for you. Once again, thank you all for being here today to celebrate World Wildlife Day together with us this weekend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry and Regina, for that opening. Now, I'd like to invite Singapore's Minister for National Development and Minister in charge of Social Services Integration, Minister Desmond Lee, to deliver the opening address. He oversees land use planning agencies in Singapore and ensures that conservation and biodiversity protection remains a priority even in the face of rapid urbanization. Minister Lee, please.
Just listening to our young organizers launch the symposium, I think very encouraging to see a regional symposium run entirely empowered by young people. Very good morning to His Royal Highness Prince Hassanal, Regent of Pahang, High Commissioner of Malaysia to Singapore, His Excellency the Dato' Asfar Muhammad Mustafa, CITES Secretary General Ms. Yvonne Figuero, Executive Director of the ASEAN Centre for Biodiversity, Dr. Sriza Mundita Lim, Chief Executive Officer of National Parks Board, Mr. Kenneth Earp, and a very happy birthday to you as well. Delegates from Southeast Asia, the region, and the world, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning once again to everyone and welcome to the second edition of the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium. I'm very happy on behalf of all my colleagues and team members from Singapore to welcome our friends from around the region this morning. And to those of you who joined us for the inaugural symposium held virtually last year, it is really great to finally meet you in person here in our city. I hope you'll find time to enjoy Singapore and enjoy your time here in Singapore amongst friends. I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Royal Highness Prince Hassanal of Pahang for gracing this symposium. His Royal Highness has been a very strong advocate for nature and environmental conservation, including for youth involvement in these important efforts. He is the advisor to the State of Pahang's Wildlife Protection Committee, which he worked with his state government to establish to combat poaching. His contributions extend beyond the state of Pahang. For example, his Save the Malayan Tiger campaign has helped to raise significant public awareness across Malaysia to protect the tigers and their ecosystems. Now, Singapore does not today have any wild tigers, but we do have a passionate community that is committed to supporting tiger conservation efforts in the region, including in Pahang. And the Singapore Wildcat Action Group will be organizing Singapore Tiger Week later this year. I understand that this is His Royal Highness' first, his inaugural speech in our city, and so it's a great honor for the committee organizing this symposium to host him as he makes his inaugural speech in Singapore. And I'd like to thank him for his strong support for nature conservation, a very important aspect of tackling climate change, and we look forward to collaborations between Pahang and Singapore in this area. Let me also take this opportunity to thank our youth stewards and all their mentors for organizing this event, organizing a regional international event. They are a group of passionate volunteers under our Youth Stewards for Nature program who are working hard, rolling up their sleeves, taking action to protect not only Singapore's but our planet's biodiversity and to build a better, greener future for themselves, for future generations. This symposium would not have been possible without their passion, their energy, and creativity. So I'd just like to invite all our young organizers, our future leaders of our conservation movement. We've organized this symposium. Please stand up. Please stand up. Let us acknowledge you. Those of you who are too shy to stand up, later may you come and sing a song. Now, on a serious note, the loss of biodiversity is largely driven by human action. Degradation and fragmentation of habitats, the failure to achieve sustainable development, the important balance between meeting the needs of people and meeting the needs of protecting nature, as well as poaching and the illegal wildlife trade. Climate change has exacerbated the problem. Extreme weather conditions, rising sea levels, and the warming of the oceans all pose grave threats to our planet's biodiversity and ecosystems, and that also means a threat to humankind. We need to act urgently, both globally and locally, to avert further losses and to safeguard our biodiversity and natural ecosystems for the long term. And sustainable development is key. This is why it is important for everyone, especially our younger generations and future stewards of our region's natural resources, to come together to tackle biodiversity loss through your voice, but more importantly, through our joint action. All of you can play a part. In Singapore, you have enhanced our conservation efforts by participating in biodiversity surveys, public education, and species recovery and habitat enhancement activities organized by my colleagues at NParks. You have been designing and leading such projects on your own, from designing a pollinator-friendly edible garden to developing public outreach programs on how to stop animal feeding and conducting urban population census for the long-tailed macaques of Singapore, amongst many others. Thanks to your contribution and that of the wider community that's partnered you, we've made great strides in transforming Singapore into a city in nature. We recently crossed the three-quarter mark of our target to implement recovery plans for 100 plant species and 60 animal species by the end of this decade. We've reached the three-quarter mark already. We have also exceeded our 2030 target to restore and enhance over 30 hectares of forests, coastal and marine habitats in our small city-state. Our volunteers were absolutely instrumental in these efforts, planting native trees and shrubs, removing invasive species. We will therefore raise our ambitions on this front to restore 80 hectares of such habitats by the end of this decade. To our young friends from around the region, no project is too small to make a difference. As the saying goes, little drops of water make a mighty ocean. Together we can make a sea change for wildlife conservation. I'm happy that the young people of Southeast Asia are stepping up to take action. And this symposium is a good example of this. Today's symposium is organized in conjunction with World Wildlife Day on the 3rd of March. Every year on this day, people from around the world come together to celebrate the world's flora and fauna. And this year, World Wildlife Day celebrates partnerships for wildlife conservation at all levels, from international, intergovernmental, to local, and the people and the partnerships who are making a real difference. This theme resonates deeply with us here in Singapore. Although we are a very small, dense, and highly urbanized environment, we share this island with a wide variety of plant and animal species. Many of these can also be found in our neighboring countries. For example, the Sunda pangolin and the lesser mouse deer. Migratory shorebirds also use our mangroves and wetlands, as well as others in the region, as stopover points on their journeys north and south each year. Mighty journeys, long, vast distances. We therefore need to grow partnerships locally, regionally, and internationally, not just at the government-to-government level, but also at the NGO level, at the enterprise level, at the community level, at the citizen level, to provide the right environment for these species to thrive, including to thrive across our borders. At the local level, we work with the community to implement species recovery programs and carry out habitat enhancement work in our green and blue spaces. As biodiversity does not recognize human borders, effective biodiversity conservation also hinges on countries working much more closely together. And that is why we've taken steps to work with countries in our region on their biodiversity conservation efforts and to actively seek out strong and enduring partnerships. For example, we developed the Singapore Index on Cities Biodiversity, together with the Secretariat to the UN Convention on Biodiversity Conservation, or Biological Diversity, CBD, to help cities measure and improve their biodiversity conservation efforts. Singapore also plays a role in the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnership and the ASEAN Flyway Network for avian fauna, facilitating learning and collaboration between ASEAN member states on the conservation of wetlands and migratory water birds and all across this important flyway. We also contribute actively to the ASEAN Working Group on CITES and wildlife enforcement, such as in the drafting and publication of handbooks and guidelines for ASEAN member states on combating illegal wildlife trade. Through such collaboration, we aim to strengthen regional capabilities and cooperation on wildlife conservation. At the international level, we work through CITES, which facilitates the formation of partnerships to protect wildlife species from unsustainable international trade. For example, at the 19th CITES Conference of Parties meeting last year, Singapore and Malaysia worked very closely together to achieve stronger protection for two threatened songbird species, the straw-headed bugul and the white-rumped shama. This would not have been possible without the strong support of other CITES partners and international NGOs, including Mandai Nature from Singapore. On this note, I would like to congratulate CITES on your 50th anniversary. 3rd March 2023 also marks the day that the convention was signed back in 1973. CITES has come a very long way since then, evolving to keep pace with the changing environmental threats and rising to the occasion. More species are now protected, and parties are sharing more information, sharing resources, and the latest technologies to support one another's enforcement efforts. Now, all of us have an important part to play, but our actions have greater impact when we work together at all levels. And so I hope that the World Wildlife Day Regional Youth Symposium, bringing together the future leaders of the green movement, will continue to provide a strong foundation for further partnerships and collaborations between our countries. And I look forward to many more editions of this event. I would like finally to thank our speakers and partners from across Southeast Asia and from Singapore who have made this weekend possible, and in particular Mandai Nature for your generous support through NParks Garden City Fund that has allowed our speakers, our facilitators, and our young delegates from Southeast Asia to join us physically in person. I really wish that beyond today and tomorrow that all of you leaving Singapore leave with good friendships, getting to know people from government, from NGOs, from enterprise, and from the community. And on that note, I wish all of you a fruitful, fun, and meaningful symposium. We have much to learn from each other, so please don't hold back at the sessions later. And let's secure the long-term survival of our global biodiversity in our region together. Thank you, and good morning.
Thank you very much, Minister. Please remain on stage. We'd like to invite Saloni, our Programs Day 1 lead, to present you with a token of appreciation. Thank you, Minister and Saloni. Let us give another round of applause for our Minister. Next, I'd like to invite our special guest, His Royal Highness Tengku Hassanal, the region of Pahang, who has been a strong advocate for environmental and biodiversity protection in Malaysia. As Minister mentioned, he has been actively involved through his role as advisor to the State of Pahang's Wildlife Protection Committee. I'd like to invite His Royal Highness to deliver the keynote address. Your Highness, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning everyone. The Honourable Desmond Lee, Minister for National Development, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to thank Minister Desmond Lee and the National Parks Board of Singapore for inviting me. I am honoured to address you today and excited to speak to the young conservationists here. Just being here at the symposium and seeing all the young people so empathic about conservation is truly heartwarming. Your presence here proves your leadership for conservation. These are wise, aware and responsible young people, and I'm truly humbled to be amongst them. Together, I'm certain that we can face the tremendous challenges we have in front of us today and support each other to succeed in our formidable mission, the mission to save our future and our children's future. I believe that if we are to achieve our goal of restoring our planet and halting the threats facing it, then it is our shared responsibility to think seriously and deeply, act courageously and make the seemingly impossible possible. We are here today because we share a common passion for the natural world, and we all have our unique stories of what inspired us to take this action. Perhaps it was a visit to a national park, a conversation with a mentor or role model, or simply witnessing the beauty of nature that sparked something within us, and we knew we had to act. I knew we had to act after learning the plight of my country's national icon, the Malayan tiger. Our majestic icon once numbered over 3,000 across the Malay Peninsula, but today it is on the brink of extinction, with reportedly less than 150 tigers remaining in Malaysia in 2020. Today the number is understood to be considerably lower. My own state of Pahang is critical to conserving a viable population of the Malayan tiger and its natural habitat due to its large area of rainforest. Over the past year, we have implemented a number of actions towards this goal, namely establishing the Pahang Wildlife Conservation Committee to assist the Pahang State Biodiversity Council on wildlife protection, conducting an anti-poaching program including a preliminary threat assessment, data gathering and enforcement training, commissioning a large-scale landscape study in the Greater Taman Negara area to identify areas with high conservation value and to explore potential for green financing, and establishing a new 92,000 hectares state park comprising the Gunung Ais Forest Reserve in Pahang, which is next to Taman Negara. This new proposed state park in Pahang is contiguous with the southern border of Taman Negara National Park and preserves connectivity with adjacent forests in neighbouring Terengganu. Together, these forests will create a large core area of secure habitat to support the natural recovery of the wild Malayan tiger population and other endangered wildlife, including elephants, tapirs, and seladang. Recent field studies have also shown that 6 of the 7 wildcat species in Peninsular Malaysia are also found here. This is one of the last pristine tracts of rainforest in Peninsular Malaysia today. It is also the main water catchment of the Tembeling River, which is the main tributary to the Pahang River, and is of enormous significance to the Ulu Tembeling villagers, who rely on the river for transportation, food resources, and income. The proposed state park will provide employment opportunities and stimulate ecotourism and economic activity in the region. Conservation experts have found signs of poaching activities within this remote forested landscape. Cruel cable snares are used to catch high-value species such as Malayan tigers, and leopards, in addition to other animals such as deer, wild pigs, and seladang. The Pahang state government has engaged Panthera Malaysia to develop an elite wildlife protection unit to conduct wildlife monitoring, training, and patrols. This protection unit will work closely with our National Wildlife Department and law enforcement agencies to coordinate their field operations. They will also be working together with indigenous people, relying on their skills and knowledge of operating in the deep forests. In line with the theme for World Wildlife Day this year, Partnerships for Wildlife Conservation, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of collaboration in protecting our environment and wildlife. The conservation of wildlife is not just a task for governments and conservation organizations, but requires the collective effort from all stakeholders, especially from young people. As young people, we play a crucial role in this effort. We are the next generation of environmental stewards, and it is up to us to protect the world's wildlife for future generations. But we cannot act alone. We need to build networks, make connections, and seek out partners to help us achieve our conservation goals. We need to work together to create a world where wildlife thrives, where people value and respect nature, and where we can live in harmony with the natural world. Partnerships help us to share knowledge, resources, and expertise. They help us to amplify our voices, to raise awareness, and to engage more people in conservation efforts. These partners may be fellow young people, experienced mentors, conservation organizations, or even local communities. Mentors and role models can provide guidance, inspiration, and support for young people who are interested in pursuing a career in conservation or who simply want to make a difference in their communities. Partnerships are also about building trust. We need to establish trust with our partners and with the communities we work with. Trust is built through open communication, transparency, and mutual respect. We need to listen to the concerns and aspirations of the indigenous population and work with them to find solutions that benefit both people and wildlife. Indigenous people play a crucial role in conservation efforts, as they are often the ones who live in close proximity to the wildlife and their habitats. These communities have a special knowledge which has been handed down over the generations. Finally, partnerships require commitment. We need to be committed to our conservation goals to our partners and to the communities we work with. We need to be willing to invest time and effort into achieving our objectives, to persevere in the face of challenges, and to celebrate our successes together. I hope that everyone attending today will use this opportunity to connect with fellow young people, engage with role models and experts, and be inspired by their experiences. Let us work together to create a world where wildlife thrives and people value and respect nature. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Your Royal Highness. We would like to once again invite Saloni up on stage to present you with a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness, for your inspiring words. Next, we will hear from Ms. Yvonne Higuero, Secretary General of the UN Secretariat for the International Trade of Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, also known as CITES. As she is unable to join us in person today, she will be sharing her opening remarks via a recorded video.
Hello, dear guests. What a pleasure to welcome you to the Regional Youth Symposium celebrating World Wildlife Day 2023 and CITES' 50th birthday. I wish I could be there with you, but feel so fortunate to have met with some of you in Singapore only a few months ago. I was visiting countries across Southeast Asia and had a very busy schedule, meeting government ministers and CITES officials. But nowhere did I see more enthusiasm for conservation and the sustainable use of wildlife than from the young people I met in September. I am so pleased to see that the plans for World Wildlife Day that you were working on have become a reality. Your Regional Youth Symposium is an expression of the dynamism, commitment, and innovation of all of those participating over the next days. The reason I can't be with you in person is that I am in Washington, D.C. We will be highlighting stories from around the globe on the theme of partnerships for wildlife conservation. And I have asked two of your representatives to join me and tell the world about your work at our event for World Wildlife Day. I hope some of you will be able to join us and watch the live stream on the World Wildlife Day YouTube channel. This year is a special celebration as it is the 50th anniversary of the signing of CITES here in Washington, D.C. on the 3rd of March in 1973. Over the past 50 years, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora has led the way in building partnerships for wildlife conservation. It has brought together all interests in the service of sustainability and the aim that international trade should never threaten the survival of animal and plant species in the wild. 50 years is longer than almost all of you watching this have been alive. It is a testament to the convention that it has been able to adapt and modernize while still staying true to its founding principles. These are challenging times, though, and all of us have a huge job before us to halt and reverse the decline in biodiversity. The need for CITES is perhaps greater than ever before. This is why I am reaching out to you. We need you to be a force for changing human behavior and put us on the path to sustainability. Our convention, our efforts to conserve wild animal and plant species are only ever as good as the people who are committed to the work. The current generation is making efforts to play their part. Those of you who were in Panama or viewed remotely saw the parties to CITES put in place decisions that are designed to safeguard the future of more than 38,000 wild species. But taking those decisions is not enough. They must be implemented, and this is hard work. Do what is in your hands to ensure that each country puts in place the measures to regulate the international trade in these species and continues combating wildlife crime. The prize for your efforts will be a healthier planet and a better and more sustainable relationship with nature. Good luck for the next 3 days. I look forward to hearing all about it.
Incredible words by Ms. Higuero. Our next speaker is the Executive Director for the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, formerly the Director of the Biodiversity Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines. Dr. Teresa Mendita Lim also chaired the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity subsidiary body on scientific, technical, and technological advice from 2017 to 2018. Dr. Lim, please.
His Excellency Minister Desmond Lee, Ministry of National Development, Singapore. His Royal Highness the Regent of Pahang, Crown Prince Tengku Hassan Al Ibrahim Alam Shah. Miss Yvonne Higuero, Secretary General of CITES. Dr. Melvin Gumal, Deputy CEO of the Sarawak Forestry Corporation, Malaysia. Distinguished speakers and guests, and most especially to the young biodiversity champions gathered here. A very pleasant morning to all of you. Allow me to congratulate NParks Youth Stewards for Nature Program team for all the hard work in excellently organizing this series of events for the youth and for the young at heart like us. It is a pleasure to be here in person and join you in observing a very important day for ASEAN and the rest of the world. This is the World Wildlife Day. The 3rd of March marks the 50th year of the adoption of the CITES, as was mentioned earlier, is a milestone that we are happy to celebrate in the region, given that all the 10 member states of the ASEAN are parties to this convention. Based on fossil records and current data, scientists have determined that we are already losing a substantial number of species within a short geological period, suggesting that we may be on the verge of the sixth mass extinction. And unlike the prehistoric extinctions, the dire situation we are in now, as far as species diversity is concerned, is highly avoidable. What brought us here can be traced to the choices we, as humanity, have made throughout history. Now, with the wisdom of hindsight and the benefit of modern research and science and technology, we have a better appreciation of how having a harmonious coexistence with nature and other species is vital to our survival and our way of life. In this year's World Wildlife Day, we recognize the value of strong partnerships, and this has been mentioned again and again in from our speakers. But in a region as biodiverse as ASEAN, with over 25% of all described life on Earth, we really need to work together to significantly reduce the risk of extinction of these species, as they are essential to the health of ecosystems from which we derive all of our needs to survive. The ASEAN region's high species diversity and high mean country endemic proportions emphasize the region's significance for conservation. New species members under major taxa continue to be discovered in the remaining intact natural ecosystems in the region. In fact, in 2020, a global report revealed that over 200 new species were discovered only in the Greater Mekong region alone. Towards the end of 2022, 2 new gymnor species were discovered in Mindanao, the southern part of the Philippines. Gymnors look rodent-like, cute, but they're actually not rodents. They are more related to hedgehogs, but do not possess the spines that hedgehogs do. These animals are quite unique because since they don't have spines, they emit a foul odor when threatened. Interesting, huh? And there are more of such unique and interesting species that have only been known to science in the last 2 decades. And scientists continue to be baffled that species under major taxonomic areas are still being discovered and rediscovered in our part of the world. However, this newly discovered amazing flora and fauna in the ASEAN, along with others that have been known to exist for centuries, remain threatened and could even be at the brink of extinction due to irresponsible and unsustainable activities. Worse, there may still be species out there that could disappear forever even before we get to know them or even before we recognize their true value. Now, how do we move forward in reversing and preventing such catastrophe? We first need to realize that one generation does not have the monopoly of benefits that the human race can derive from nature. And so we believe that you, the torch bearers of change, are the most powerful partners that we have in saving and protecting these natural treasures. The ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, or the ACB, together with the ASEAN member states, implements a number of initiatives for wildlife conservation. Among them, as the Minister mentioned, is the ASEAN Flyway Network, which is designed to protect our migratory birds and their habitats across the ASEAN region. The ACB also serves as the Secretariat of the ASEAN Heritage Parks Program, a flagship initiative of the ASEAN that promotes effective protected area management and conserve and preserve both the cultural and natural heritage of this network of outstanding PAs. To date, We have 55 ASEAN heritage parks in the region, 2 of which are the Bukit Timah Nature Reserve and the Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve here in Singapore, of course. We are also recognizing ecosystems restoration in the ASEAN region through the ASEAN Green Initiative. In collaboration with Japan, the ACB is likewise enhancing the taxonomic capacity of the member states by conducting training sessions on DNA barcoding and by producing taxonomy manuals and field guides. And so we recognize the vital role of the youth in all these conservation efforts. That is why the ACB has decided to institutionalize the ASEAN Youth Biodiversity Program under the leadership of our coordinator, Ms. Mika Tan. Hi, Mika. Give her a big hand. She's been working so hard for this. So now we recognize how youth involvement is very important in the implementation of the newly adopted global biodiversity targets under the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. We enjoy you to help us better communicate the value of biodiversity, and we have a communication campaign called #WeAreASEANBiodiversity, where you can lend your voices to amplify our call for species conservation throughout all social media platforms. Many of you present today have gone through at least one of our signature youth programs, and for those who are hearing about the AYBP for the first time, I invite you to find out more about this initiative by visiting our website at aybp.aseanbiodiversity.org. So, let me end this message with a line from Professor X to Dr. Strange in Universe 838. Are you familiar with this? Okay, so I quote, "Just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they are lost forever," unquote. So us, your elders, may have faltered, but we believe that with you, our young biodiversity leaders, there is hope that our wildlife will continue to survive and thrive, and of course follows humanity. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy World Wildlife Day, everyone.
I would once again like to invite Slowly to present Dr. Teresa with a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, our keynote lecturer, Dr. Melvin Gumau, is no stranger to wildlife conservation, having been involved in wildlife conservation efforts in Malaysia since 1988. Today, he is Deputy CEO at the Sarawak Forestry Corporations, which serves to manage and conserve Sarawak's forest reserves. Dr. Gumau will be sharing on the many partnerships the Sarawak Forestry Corporation undertakes in the name of conservation, as well as how youth today can involve themselves in the many facets of conservation. Without further ado, Dr. Gumau, please.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, come on. Now, you have heard the spiel. They've sung to the choir. You already know what you're supposed to be doing, right? How does it affect each and every one of you? Stand up. Come on. Hey. Stand up. Now, listen to me, okay? I've done this in a room of 250 people, 500 people, pre-COVID. I want you to do this now. Ready? Breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And he's turning purple. Breathe, breathe. Sit down. Now, it matters not if it's His Royal Highness. It matters not if it's the ambassador. It matters not if it's Mr. Kenneth. Each and every one of you needed to breathe. Nothing, no money, no your mom's care is going to give you that air, except for these things. Your wildlife are the ones that pollinate the flowers, disperse the seeds, burrow into the soil that you have air. You are intrinsically linked to the environment, to the wildlife that you are supposed to care about. If we don't start thinking of wildlife in that manner, we always think that it's somebody else's problem. I'm over 50 years old. I would gladly tell you that it's your problem. No, it's not. It's my problem. It's your problem. It's your future generation's problem. Some of you are parents, some of you are moms, some of you are dads. During the haze, the first thing you did when it came through, it mattered not whether it was in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, the parents would open the door to look if the child was breathing. Yes? You did. All those things were linked with wildlife, and when we start destroying it, we are affecting it ourselves, not somebody else. We need to internalize this. And the reason why I gave it a talk along this manner right now is we seem so detached. Please do this. Please do that. We need to do this ourselves. Okay? Now I'm going to jump because I've got 10 minutes and my kid is turning purple now because he says I have 6 minutes left. I have also done this, given this to my kid, QR code. So those of you who would like to get in touch with me, get in touch with YKid, scan this and you'll get my card and the work that I'm doing. Okay? Short circuit, YKid. Let's jump. Okay, I work for Sarawak Forestry Corporation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dispense with this. I'm going to lodge a set of slides here. I'll guide it to you quick and get to what you want to hear, okay? Yeah. You're not here to listen to me preach. This is what we do. Speed reading, okay? This is what we have. Green, plants. Brown, animals. Blue, fish. Color coded, ma. You know what to do. This is what we have in Sarawak. Like what we have all across Southeast Asia. A lot of things. What our uniqueness that we have. Now, this is where it cooks you. This is Sarawak. We have 37% of the land mass for Malaysia. Our seascapes are 47.8% of the whole of Malaysia. We do this much like every Parks and Wildlife Service around the world. This is our totally protected area system. This up there is Luconia, and the total land sea and land protected areas that we have is 2.1 million hectares. By the time we finish, we're talking about 2.8 million hectares, and one of our sites coming up here, since the Premier had already generally agreed, will be larger than the whole of Taman Negara. This is me, and some of the work that some of the work that we do, and my kid already said 5 minutes. We catch people. We find people. 17 million Sing dollars in one case. 7 million, 9 million in one case, to serve as a deterrent. The reason why you do that is if they can't pay, they're in jail. They don't want to go in jail. You put a fine of 5,000, 10,000, the afternoon they come in with the money, they pay it off, they're gone. You need to start hitting it hard. We save animals. The crocodile Dundees that we have. I had a presentation earlier in the year, last year, where we talked about how our staff jump on crocodiles to hold on to them and translocate them. Some of the research that we do, marine and previously terrestrial, deployment of reef balls, nearly 17,000 reef balls, Malaysia's longest marine park, 1,000 kilometers by 6 kilometers. The reason is we need to bring back the productivity of the seas with corals, with seagrasses and all these. We do habitat restoration, rewilding. Ben and a bunch of people had a paper just come out on rewilding. We're doing large landscapes for this. We sign a lot of MOUs to try to get international people into our program with the sole purpose of improving the competence of our staff. And I now rush. New species discovered, the education work that we do. How do youth engage with this? The takeaway message. Number one, if you think you're an art person, a painter and all that, you don't get involved in conservation, that's not true. Look, this was youth artwork with UK. Our kids in the villages started doing it. Across the region, across the globe, and the artwork was displayed in the UK as part of the global push. In other words, interdisciplinary and not just science. Those that really want to touch wildlife as opposed to just saving it from a distance, vets. We dealt with a bunch of vets looking in, and some of them, I don't know if Moses and all that are in the room, from previously University of Glasgow. There's 2 or 3 NParks vets who are actually here previously. And the sole purpose is to get them to understand that vet work also means saving wildlife. 1 minute. Our Earth has 2 lungs. So we created this large project called Earth, Sea and Sky to work with replanting, putting corals in the, bringing back corals in the sea with the sole purpose of later on creating a project called Earth, Sea and Sky and having guidelines for rewilding. And youth were engaged in these, also in the science of doing the work that's being done. Okay, all the different forms of science.
The greatest people are self-managing. They don't need to be managed. If they know once they know what to do, they'll go figure out how to do it. They don't need to be managed at all. What they need is a common vision, and that's what leadership is. What leadership is having a vision, being able to articulate that so the people around you can understand it, and getting a consensus on a common vision. We wanted people that were insanely great at what they did, but we're not necessarily those seasoned professionals, but who had at the tips of their fingers and in their passion the latest understanding of where technology was and what we could do with that technology, and who wanted to bring that to lots of people. So the neatest thing that happens is when you get a core group of 10 great people, it becomes self-policing as to who they let into that group. So I consider the most important job of someone like myself is recruiting.
Now, thing is, all of you, a bunch of you use iPhones, right? Some of you use Androids, but the premium thing, it's iPhones. Well, I don't use an iPhone. My point being, back then, Steve Jobs was in his early 30s in that video, and he was already seeing the power of youth, young people in actually changing industry. In the same way, if we don't engage and allow opportunities for you guys to get into this egg yolk of senior management, inner circle, we are doing ourselves a terrible disservice, because you have the energy, you have the brain power, you have the new trains of thought. Not to mention you have the new fashion and all these things. Bell bottoms are back, by the way, I see it everywhere. We need to be able to confidently and happily pass on the conservation baton. We desperately want to. And in this room, where you are all the choir, I can see, like last night, the energy given by you guys is huge. And if this continues to go for the next 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, we have a chance. But only if we internalize it, much like what I did with you guys over this. You have to. Even there was some yesterday at dinner. You guys brought your own tiffin carriers to get the food from the buffet. The rest of us took the plastic plates, plastic spoons, and we assumed the organizer did it. But we didn't take our own individual responsibility to try to do the right thing. So go forward, change the world. You have to, we depend on you. Thank you very much.
All right, I'd like to invite Solani up on stage again to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Gumal. Thank you very much. Next, I invite all of you to take your seats. We're going to, and squeeze a little bit, because we're going to take a group photo. So let's invite our photographer, Faith. So in your bags, right, you guys have a set of postcards. Most of them were designed by Faith over here. So some of them were also designed by Raphael, who's sitting over there. Personally, that's the nicest bit of the goodie bag. There's one part for each ASEAN state, so you can go and take a look, all 10. So anyway, okay, let's have a bit of a physical activity. May I invite everyone to stand up and squeeze a little bit.